नारायण गोस्वामी महाराज श्री गुरुदेव की जय। नितिल विश्व विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शतश्रीमद श्रील भक्ति वेदांत वामन गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। नितिल विश्व विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शतश्रीमद श्रील भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। नितिल विश्व विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शतश्रीमद श्रील भक्ति प्रज्ञान केशव गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। नितिल विश्व विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शतश्रीमद श्रील भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय। नितिल विश्व महाभागवत श्रील गोक्षरस बाबूजी महाराज की जय। नितिल विश्व श्री श्रीरंद भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जय। नितिल विश्व वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्री जगन्नाथ दास बाबूजी महाराज की जय। श्री रूप गौरी गुरु वार्ग की जय। श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल पतदास रघुनाथ शार गोस्वामी प्रभु की जय। श्री स्वरूप दामोदर राय रामानंदारी श्री गोपाशाद वृंद की जय। नाम चय श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल ब्रज मंडल मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय। सर्व अभिष्ट विराते गिरिराज महाराज की जय। श्री राधा कुंज श्याम कुंज यमुना तुलसी भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद भागवतम की जय। श्री राधा दामोदर जो की जय। श्री दामोदर व्रत की जय। व्रत पालन करी भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। Alright, I'm going to share my whole screen. One second. Shoot. It doesn't matter. Okay. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayanati Namine. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Namo mahavadanyaya Krishna prema pradayate Krishnaya Krishna chaitanya namne gauratishe namaha. Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yam Pravajantam Anupetam Apeta Krityam Dvaipayano Virahaka Tara Ajuhavo Putreti Tanmayataya Taravo Binedus Tang Sarva Bhuta Hridaya Munimanatosmi. Narayanam namaskritya narang chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet. Shrinvatang swakata Krishna punya shravana kirtana ridantasto yabhadrani vidunoti surit satam. Nashta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavatyuttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. Tavai vasmi na jivami tvaya vina iti vigyaya radhe tvam nayamam charanantikam. Bhaktya vihina aparada lakshay kshiptashtakama ditarangamade kripa maitam Sharanam prapana vrinde namaste charanaravinda. Vaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Just making sure everything's working. Looks like it. Alright. Let's get started. Remember how I said I wasn't going to be tired today? Well, I'm going to be tired today. Wait, I can't even speak straight. How I said yesterday, right? I said yesterday that I was going to... anyways. But today's fortunately not such a long... We don't have so much more to read till we finish the chapter. So... But yeah, please bear with me. Shashvat prashantam abhayam pratibhudam. Wait, should we do a recap of what we read yesterday? 1 second. Shashvat prashantam abhayam pratibhudamatram shuddham samang sarasata paramatma tattvam shabdo nayatra purukara kavan kriyarto maya paraityabhimuke chavila jamana tadvai pradam bhagavata paramasya pungso prameti yar vidurajasra sukam vishokam. Okay, so we read the Sanskrit. Let's see. Okay, so this is what we're going to read. No one can describe the Lord's greatness. Even if one is able to count the atomic particles... Oh wait, we're going to do a recap. So, we went through all these different avatars. Varaha, Suyagya, Kapila, Dattatreya, the four Kumars, Narayan, Krishnagarbha Prithu, Rishabdev, Hayagriva, Matsya, Kurma, Nishingadev, Hari, Vamandev, Hangsavatar, Manvantaravatar, Tanvantari, Parshuram, Ramachandra, Krishna, Vyasadeva, Buddha, Kalki, the Guna avatars, and now we are understanding Lord Vishnu by his mercy. No one can describe the Lord's greatness. Even if one is able to count the atomic particles in this world, one cannot describe the greatness of Lord Vishnu, who effortlessly extended his leg beyond the three worlds, causing everything to tremble. Even if Ananta Shesh could not reach the limit of the Lord's glories with his 1,000 mouths, neither you nor the sages born before you know the limit of his strength. What then to speak of others? Only surrendered souls can know the Lord by his mercy. An unpretentiously surrendered soul receives the Lord's unlimited mercy, by which one can cross the insurmountable ocean of Maya and understand the Lord, but not those who are attached to the body, which is meant to be eaten by dogs and jackals. Surrendered souls who know the Lord list the great personalities including me, you, Shiva, Swayambhuva Manu, Ambarish, Bhishma, Uddhava, Prahlad, Dhruva, Vidura, Arjuna, and many others who were thus successful in attracting the Lord's mercy. Even lower persons can know the Lord by their devotees' mercy. Not only they, even unqualified people can cross over the material ocean and know the Lord if they are inclined to surrender to the pure devotees and learn from them. That's what we read yesterday. And now today is description of Paramatma and Brahman and establishing Bhagavan as the ultimate phase. So first, this verse 47, what I just read, the Sanskrit that I just read, is the qualities of the aspects of the absolute truth. Paramatma, who is eternal. We're going to read the translation. We're going to read Paramatma, Brahma, and Bhagavan. And then Jnanis, and then the next verse that we'll read is Jnanis and yogis give up their paths. Those who follow the paths of artificial mental speculation and meditation finally give them up, as Indra, the demigod, knows the trouble of digging the well. And then Bhagavan is the ultimate benefactor. And then we'll read a summary of and dissemination of this knowledge. My son, I have thus explained to you in brief about the Supreme Lord Hari, who creates all the worlds, without whom nothing exists. Distribute this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a collection of the Lord's vibhutis spoken by the Lord, like that. Importance of understanding the creation pastimes, and then we'll be finished with the chapter. All right. Just making sure I didn't lose everybody by that. Oh, I did. Anyhow, at least there is, I don't know who is there. Is that Lalit Krishna maybe? Or to say Shri Mataji? Okay. What is realized as the absolute Brahman is full of unlimited bliss without grief. That is certainly the ultimate phase of the supreme enjoyer, the personality of Godhead. He is eternally void of all disturbances and fearless. He is complete consciousness as opposed to matter. Uncontaminated and without distinctions, he is the principal in whom there energy does not stand. Oh, my eyes are really starting to hurt right now. I'm going to put on these glasses. The Supreme Enjoyer, purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Enjoyer, the personality of Godhead, is the Supreme Brahman, or the Somam Bonam, because of his being the supreme cause of all causes. The conception of impersonal Brahman realization is the first step, due to his distinction from the illusory conception of material existence. In other words, impersonal Brahman is a feature of the Absolute distinct from the material variegatedness, just as light is a conception distinct from its counterpart, darkness. But the light has its variegatedness, which is seen by those who further advance in the light. And thus the ultimate realization of Brahman is the source of the Brahman light, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Samam Bonam, or the ultimate source of everything. Therefore, meeting the personality of Godhead includes the realization of the impersonal Brahman as realized at first in contrast with material inebriety. The personality of Godhead is the first step of Brahman realization. As explained in the first canto, one must understand all three the Absolute, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Pratibodhamatram. Pratibodhamatram is just the opposite conception of material existence. In the matter, there are material miseries, and thus, in the first realization of Brahman, there is the negation of such material inebrieties. And there's a feeling of external existence distinct from the pains of birth and death, disease and old age. That is the primary conception of impersonal Brahman. The Supreme Lord is the Supreme Soul of everything, and therefore, in the Supreme Conception, affection is realized. The conception of affection is due to the relationship of the soul, is due to the relationship of soul to soul. A father is affectionate to his son because there is some relationship of nearness between son and the father. But that sort of affection in the material world is full of inebriety. What does inebriety mean? I'm probably saying the word wrong. Inebriety. Sorry, guys. Anyhow, I just want to know how to say it, actually. I want to hear the guys say it. But I'll just highlight it here. It means drunkenness, especially habitual. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Okay, I know that then. But that sort of affection of the material world is full of inebriety. When the personality of Godhead is met, the fullness of affection becomes manifested because of the reality of affectionate relationship. He is not the object of affection by material tinges of body and mind. but he is the full, naked, uncontaminated object of affection for all living entities, because he is a supersoul, or Paramatma, within everyone's heart. In the liberated state of affairs, the full-fledged affection for the Lord is awakened. As such, there is an unlimited flow of everlasting happiness, without fear of its being broken, as we have experienced here in the material world. The relationship with the Lord is never broken. Thus, there is no grief and no fear. Such happiness is inexplicable by words, and there can be no attempt to generate such happiness by fruitive activities, by arrangements and sacrifices. But we must also know that the happiness, unbroken happiness exchanged with the Supreme Person, the Personality of Godhead as described in this verse, transcends the impersonal conception of the Upanishads. In the Upanishads, the description is more or less negation of the material conception of things. But this is not denial of the transcendental senses of the Supreme Lord. Herein also, the same is affirmed in the statements about the material elements. They are all transcendental, free from all contamination of material identification. And also, the liberated souls are not devoid of senses. Otherwise, there cannot be any reciprocation of unhampered spiritual happiness exchanged between them in spontaneous, unbroken joy. All the senses, both of the Lord and of his devotees, are without material contamination. They are so because they are beyond the material cause and effects, as clearly mentioned herein, Sad Asata Param. The illusory material energy cannot work there, being ashamed before the Lord and his transcendental devotees. In the material world, the sense activities are not without grief, but here it is clearly said that the senses of the Lord and the devotees are without any grief. There is a distinct difference between the material and spiritual senses, and one should understand it without denying the spiritual senses because of a material conception. The senses in the material world are surcharged with material ignorance. In every way, the authorities have recommended purification of the senses from the material conception. In the material world, the senses are manipulated for individual and personal satisfaction, whereas in the spiritual world, the senses are properly used for the purpose for which they were originally meant, namely the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. Such sensual activities are natural, and therefore sense gratification there is uninterrupted and unbroken. There is uninterrupted and unbroken by material contamination. Because the senses are spiritually purified. Sorry, guys. And as such, satisfaction of the senses is equally shared by the transcendental reciprocators. Since the activities are unlimited and constantly increasing, there is no scope for material attempts or artificial arrangements. Such happiness of transcendental quality is called Brahma Sokyam, which will be clearly described in the 5th canto. Sadrang niyamya yataya yamad karta heten jayo swarad iva nipana kanitramindra. In such a transcendental state, there is no need of artificial control of the senses. Whoa, okay, sorry guys. Let me drink some water. It's going to be a little bit of a struggle getting through this today. It's funny how when I fall asleep I just say a random word that's not in the text. In such a transcendental state, there is no need of artificial control of the mind, mental speculation, or meditation, as performed by the Gyanis and Yogis. One gives up such processes as the heavenly King Indra, forgoes the trouble to dig a well. Purport. A poor man in want of water digs a well and undertakes the trouble of digging. Similarly, those who are poor in transcendental realization speculate on the mind or meditate by controlling the senses. But they do not know that such control of the senses and achievement of spiritual perfection are simultaneously made possible as soon as one is factually engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Person, the Personality of Godhead. It is for this reason that the great liberated souls also desire to be associated in hearing and chanting the activities of the Lord. The example of Indra is very appropriate in this connection. King Indra of heaven is the controlling deity or demigod for arranging clouds and supplying rains in the universe. And as such, he does not have to take the trouble to dig a well for his personal water supply. For him, digging a well for a water supply is simply ludicrous. Similarly, those who are factually engaged in the loving service of the Lord have attained the ultimate goal of life, and for them there is no need of mental speculation to find out the true nature of God or his activities. Nor do such devotees have to meditate upon the imaginary or real identity of the Lord. Because they are factually engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord's pure devotees have already achieved the results of mental speculation and meditation. The real perfection of life is therefore to be engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Sashreyasam api vibhur bhagavan yatasya bhavasya bhava vihitasya sata prasiddhi dehe sadhatu vigame no vishiryamane vyome vatatra purusha na vishiryate gicha. The personality of Godhead is the supreme master of everything auspicious, because the results of whatever actions are performed by the living being in either the material or spiritual existence are awarded by the Lord. As such, he is the ultimate benefactor. Every individual living entity is unborn, and therefore, even after the annihilation of the material elementary body, the living entity exists exactly like the air within the body. Wow, long purport. The living entity is unborn and eternal, and as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 2:30, the living entity is not exhausted even through the material elementary body, even though the material elementary body is vanquished. As long as the living entity is in material existence, actions performed by him are rewarded in the next life, or even in the present. Similarly, in his spiritual life, also actions are rewarded by the Lord by the 5 kinds of liberation. Even the impersonalist cannot achieve the desired merging into the existence of the Supreme without being favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 4:11 that the Lord awards similar results as one desires in one's present life. The living entities are given freedom to make their choice, and the Lord rewards them accordingly. It is the duty of everyone, therefore, to worship devoutly only the personality of Godhead to achieve his desired goal. The impersonalist, instead of speculating or meditating, can directly execute the routine devotional service of the Lord and thus easily obtain the desired goal. The devotees, however, are naturally inclined to become associates of the Lord and not meager in the spiritual existence, as conceived by the impersonalists. Where was I? The devotees, therefore, following their constitutional instincts, achieve the desired goal of becoming servitors, friends, fathers, mothers, or conjugal lovers of the Lord. The devotional service of the Lord involves 9 transcendental processes, such as hearing and chanting, and by performing such easy and natural devotional services, the devotees achieve the highest perfectional results, far, far superior to merging into the existence of Brahman. The devotees are therefore never advised to indulge in speculating upon the nature of the Supreme or artificially meditating on the void. One should not, however, mistakenly think that after the annihilation of this present body, there is no body by which one can associate with the Lord face to face. The living entity is unborn. It is not that he is manifest with the creation of the material body. On the other hand, it is true that the material body develops only by the desire of the supreme entity. I just had a split-second dream. On the other side, it is true that the material body develops only by the desire of the living entity. The evolution of the material body is due to the desires of the living being. According to the desires of the living being, the material body develops. So, from the spirit soul, the material body comes into existence, generated from the living force. Since the living being is eternal, he exists just like the air within the body. Air is within and without the body. Therefore, when the external covering, the material body, is vanquished, the living spark, like the air within the belly of the body. Guys, I'm so sorry. Therefore, when the external covering, the material body, is vanquished, the living spark, like the air within the body, continues to exist. And by the direction of the Lord, because he is the ultimate benefactor, the living entity is at once awarded the necessary spiritual body befitting his association with the Lord in the manner of sarupya, equal bodily feature, salokya, equal facility to live on the same planet with the Lord, sarshti, equal possession of opulence like the Lord, and samipya, equal association with the Lord. The Lord is so kind that even if a devotee of the Lord cannot fulfill the complete course of devotional service, unalloyed and uncontaminated by material association, he is given another chance in the next life by being awarded a birth in the family of a devotee or a rich man, so that without being engaged in the struggle for material existence, the devotee can finish the remaining purification of his existence, and thus immediately after relinquishing the present body, go back home, back to Godhead. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. In this connection, detailed information is available in the Bhagavat Sandarbha of Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhupada. Once achieving the spiritual existence, the devotee is eternally situated there, as already discussed in the previous verse. We have 5 more verses to go. 1 second, guys. I'm just going to get this. I'll be right back. Just take me 1 second. I'm going to get this thing for, you'll see. Okay, I'm back. This is just to help me stay awake. Okay. There. I think this will work. Soyam te bihitas tata bhagavan vishwabhavana samasena harer nanyal anyasmat sarasachayat. My dear son, I have now explained in brief the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the creator of the manifested worlds. Without him, Hari, the Lord, there is no other causes of the phenomenal or nominal existences. Since we generally have the experience of the temporary material world and conditioned souls trying to lord it over the material worlds, Brahmaji explained to Naradev that this temporary world is the work of the external potency of the Lord, and that the conditioned souls struggling here for existence are the marginal potency of the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead. 1 second, I'm going to just hide my screen. It's kind of embarrassing what I'm doing. There. This does not mean, however, that the Lord himself Um, There's no cause for all these phenomenal activities but Him, Hari, the Supreme Lord, is the primeval cause of all causes. This does not mean, however, that the Lord Himself is distributed impersonally. He is aloof from all these interactions of the external and marginal potencies. In the Bhagavad Gita 9.4, it is confirmed that by His potencies alone, He is present everywhere and anywhere. Everything that is manifested rests on His potency only. But He, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is always aloof from everything. The potency and the potent are simultaneously one and different from one another. One should not deprecate the Supreme Lord for the creation of this miserable world, just as one should not blame the king for creating a prison house in the government. The prison house is a necessary institution of the governmental establishment for those who are disobedient to the laws of the government. Similarly, this material world is full of miseries. This material world, full of miseries, is a temporary creation of the Lord for those who have forgotten Him and are trying to lord it over the false manifestation. He, however, is always anxious to get the fallen souls back to home, back to Godhead. And for this, He has given so many chances to the conditioned souls via the authoritative scriptures. His representatives and personal incarnations also. Since He has no direct attachment to this material world, He is not to be blamed for its creation. Idam Bhagavatam nama yan me bhagavato ditam sangrahoyam vibhutanam tvam etar vipuli kuru. Okay, let's continue on. O Nara, this science of God, Srimad Bhagavatam, was spoken to me in summary by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and it was spoken as the accumulation of His diverse potencies. Please expand the science yourself. Purport. The Srimad Bhagavatam, in a nutshell, spoken by the Personality of Godhead in about half a dozen verses, which will appear ahead, is the science of God, and it is the potent representation of the Personality of Godhead. He, being absolute, is non-different from the science of God. Srimad Bhagavatam. Brahmaji received the science of Godhead from the Lord directly, and he handed over the same to Narad, who in his turn ordered Srila Vyasadeva to expand it. So the transcendental knowledge of the Supreme Lord is not mental speculation in the mundane wranglers, but is the uncontaminated, eternal, perfect knowledge beyond the jurisdiction of material modes. The Bhagavat Puran is therefore the direct incarnation of the Lord in the form of transcendental sound, and one should receive this transcendental knowledge from a bona fide representative of the Lord in the chain of disciplic succession, from the Lord to Brahmaji, from Brahmaji to Narad, from Narad to Vyas, from Vyas to Sukadev, from Sukadev to Suta Goswami. The ripened fruit of the Vedic tree drops from one hand to another without being broken or falling suddenly from a high branch down to the earth. Therefore, unless one hears the science of Godhead from the bona fide representative of the disciplic succession, as above mentioned, for one to understand the theme of the science of Godhead will be a difficult job. It should never be heard from the professional Bhagavatam reciters who earn their livelihood by gratifying the senses of the audience. Okay, I'm just seeing how much longer we have. Okay. Only two more big purports. Yataharo bhagavati nrenam bhaktir bhavishyati sarvatma kila sarvatmanya kila dhare iti sankhya vinirnaya. Iti sankalpa varnaya. Please describe the science of Godhead with determination and in a manner by which it will be quite possible for the human being to develop transcendental devotional service in the personality of Godhead, Hari, the supersoul of every living being, and the soma bonum source of all energies. Oh, Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam is a philosophy of devotional service and the scientific presentation of man's relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prior to the age of Kali, there was no need for such a book of knowledge to know the Lord and his potential energies. But with the beginning of the age of Kali, human society gradually became influenced by four sinful principles, namely illegitimate conversation with women, intoxication, gambling, and unnecessary killing of animals. Because of these basic sinful acts, man gradually became forgetful of his eternal relation with God, and therefore man became blind, so to speak, to his ultimate goal of life. The ultimate goal of life is not to pass a life of irresponsibility like the animals and indulge in a polished way in the four animal principles, namely eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating. For such a blind man, society in the darkness of ignorance, Srimad Bhagavatam is a torchlight to see things in proper perspective. Therefore, it was necessary to describe the science of God from the very beginning, or from the very birth of the phenomenal world. As we have already explained, Srimad Bhagavatam is so scientifically presented that any sincere student of this great science will be able to understand the science of God simply by reading it with attention, not falling asleep, or simply by regularly hearing it from the bona fide speaker. Everyone is hankering after happiness in life, but in this age, the members of human society, blind as they are, do not have the proper vision that the personality of Godhead is the reservoir of all happiness, because he is the ultimate source of everything. Janma dasya yata, that's the first verse. Happiness in complete perfection without hindrance can be achieved only by a devotional relationship with him. And it is only by his association that we can get free of distressful material existence. Even those who are after the enjoyment of this material world can also take shelter of the great science of Srimad Bhagavatam, and they will be successful at the end. Narad is therefore requested or ordered by his spiritual master to present this science with determination and in good plan. Narad was never advised to preach the principles of Bhagavatam to earn a livelihood. He was ordered by his spiritual master to take the matter very seriously in a missionary spirit. Almost finished. Mayam varnayato mushya ishvarasya modata Srinvata Shradaya Nitam Maya Yatma Namuyati. The Lord's activities in association with his different energies should be described, appreciated, and heard in accordance with the teachings of the Supreme Lord. If this is done regularly with devotion and respect, one is sure to get out of the illusory energy of the Lord. Purport. The science of learning a subject matter seriously is different from the sentiments of fanatics. Fanatics or fools may consider the Lord's activities in relation with the external energy to be useless for them, and they may falsely claim to be higher participants in the internal energy of the Lord. But factually, the Lord's activities in relation with the external energy and the internal energy are equally good. On the other hand, those who are not completely free from the clutches of the Lord's external energy should devoutly hear regularly about the activities of the Lord in relation with the external energy. They should not foolishly jump up to the activities of the internal energy, falsely attracted by the Lord's internal potential activities like his Ras Lila. The cheap reciters of the Bhagavatam are very much enthusiastic about the Lord's internal potential activities, and the Sura devotees, absorbed in material sense enjoyment, falsely jump to the stage of liberated souls and thus fall down deeply into the clutches of external energy. Some of them think that to hear about the pastimes of the Lord means to hear about his activities of the gopis or his pastimes like lifting the Govardhan hill, and they have nothing to do with the Lord's plenary expansions as the Purushavatars and their pastimes of the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of the material worlds. But a pure devotee knows that there is no difference between the pastimes of the Lord, either in his Ras Lila or in creation, maintenance, or destruction of the material world. Rather, the descriptions of such activities of the Lord are, as the Purush avatars, are specifically meant for persons who are in the clutches of the external energy. Topics like the Ras Lila are meant for the liberated souls, and not for the conditioned souls. The conditioned souls, therefore, must hear with appreciation and devotion the Lord's pastimes in relationship with the external energy, and such acts are as good as the hearing of Ras Lila in the liberated stage. A conditioned soul should not imitate the activities of liberated souls. Lord Sri Chaitanya never indulged in hearing the Ras Lila with ordinary men. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Science of God, the first 9 cantos prepare the grounds for hearing the 10th canto. This will be further explained in the last chapter of this canto. In the 3rd canto, it will be more explicit. A pure devotee of the Lord, therefore, must begin reading or hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from the very beginning, and not from the 10th canto. We have several times been requested by some so-called devotees to take up the 10th canto immediately, but we have refrained from such an action because we wish to present Srimad Bhagavatam as a science of Godhead and not as a sensuous understanding for the conditioned souls. This is forbidden by such authorities as Sri Brahmaji. By reading and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam as a scientific presentation, the conditioned souls will gradually be promoted to the higher status of transcendental knowledge after being freed from the illusory energy based on sense enjoyment. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 2nd canto, 7th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Scheduled Incarnations with Specific Functions. And tomorrow we will begin Chapter 8, Questions by King Parikshit. Alright, thank you for patiently sticking with me. Alright. I'm going to do a quick little Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Giridhari, Shri Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju ki Jai, Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju ki Jai, Nikhil Pravishta Om Vishnupad Ashtatara Shatashmad Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Srila Gurudev ki Jai, Nikhil Pravishta Vishnupad Ashtatara Shatashmad Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, Nikhil Pravishta Vishnupad Ashtatara Shatashmad Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Nikhil Pravishta Vishnupad Ashtatara Shatashmad Srila Bhakti Vigyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, Nikhil Pravishta Vishnupad Ashtatara Shatashmad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki Jai, Nikhil Pravishta Mahabhagavat Srila Goksharas Babaji Maharaj ki Jai, Nikhil Pravishta Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki Jai, Nikhil Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki Jai, Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga ki Jai, Shri Rup Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath, Shri Jeev Gopal Patadash Raghunath Shara Goswami Prabhu ki Jai, Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai, प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद, श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल ब्रज मंडल मथुर वृंदावन धाम की जय। सर्व अभिष्ट व्रत गिरिराज महाराज की जय। श्री राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड की जय। श्री मुनि देवी गंगा देवी की जय। श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय। श्री भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। श्री कार्तिक व्रत की जय। व्रत पालन करी भक्त वृंद की जय। कार्तिकी श्रीमती राधिका की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्रीनिताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रियाय केशवश्च च कृष्ण भक्ति पद देवी सत्यवताय नमो नमः। वंशा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। दंडवत प्रणाम। Sorry, guys, that was pretty bad. Oh man, anyways, yeah, I'm gonna have to say I can't do those late meetings anymore. Okay, Haribol.